everybody, come on in and welcome back to Ideally Though.
Ideally, though.
I'm your host, Erika, and with me is my hubby, my bestie, my butt up biscuit.
What's up, everybody out there?
We are on episode 2 of our spooky season in the month of October.
Ghosty ghouls.
Yes, so Halloween's coming up. We have our costumes.
I am hesitant about mine. Yours is gonna rock. Mine is.
I
Mine
think it's
is.
going to be good. We're not going to expose what our costume's going to be, but I bought these costumes back in January. That's just how I do. So, but we're gonna be cute. We're gonna be a cute little couple. I usually like to switch up my outfits and do like two outfits, like for Halloween.
I mean, I've never been the Halloween type, so last last year
Hmm.
was it? We did the Incredibles, right?
Yeah, we did as a family. It was our first time dressing up as a family.
My first time anything, to be honest. I remember. I mean, practically, I was a kid at one point, right? Of course. And
Right.
during Halloween, some tragic shit happened, and my mom was like, "Never again." So,
Oh man.
it just, yeah, I was popcorn, food, snacks, and horror movies. That was it. So that was really my very first time in a number of years.
Have you ever wanted to be something like you see kids outside and you're like, man, I wish I could just dress up for like school or to go trick or treating? Was there ever a specific costume you like? Oh, dang, I wish I could just.
Yeah, but that would have cost way too much money, first off, and would have been really weird, and my mom wouldn't have liked it. But I had asked to be Raziel from Soul Reaver many years before, but like my mom was like, "We don't fucking have any money for that, and why would I do anything like that?" You know?
Man, for me, if my son was like, "Oh, I really want to be this person," like, do I gotta DIY it? What do I gotta
I
do? Do I
respect
get
that.
scar? Like, we would have did it. Like,
I remember going to a haunted house at one point, and we had these shitty masquerade paper masks,
I would have laughed at you guys.
and that was it. It was just like regular ass school clothes and green, red, and blue mask we all had, and all we did is like switch mask colors, and then switch the side of the face it was on, like on our head, and we walked through multiple times to get candy.
It's like that episode of Everybody Hates Chris on
Like,
Halloween.
yeah,
Yeah, where that little
yeah,
kid kept on switching his like sheets.
exactly. I remember that, and that was fucking awful. It was
When
embarrassing.
I used to see kids who seem like, well, I don't give a fuck about a costume or they just had like a shitty one, I'd be
Yeah.
like, I know you really want to dress up, but somebody in your house don't want y'all to. So
It's
you're
like
trying to get in the
it's like
mood, but you can't.
I'm gonna be a ghost, and then your mom goes and cuts two holes in the sheet,
Yeah,
and you're like, oh,
not the good sheet stuff.
thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I always feel bad for kids who are like, yeah, I have this shitty like mask or something. I'm like, dang, like it doesn't cost a lot to dress up. Like it's really like you got $20, 25. You can't save
Mom,
that
my
throughout the
sheet
year.
has cranberry juice on it. That's blood, baby. That's blood. That's gonna be blood.
I'm just like, like I don't know. I love Halloween. I love that the kids love it, but our kids are kind of the type that would be like, okay, 2 hours trick or treating, that's it.
Yeah, which is kind of surprising
I like
with
that.
my perspective on how Halloween, I guess, traditionally should work.
Well,
But I've
like
only seen
we
that in media, so it's
like going out all night.
yeah, they're always like, we're
Oh,
gonna be out all night and getting all types of candy and hitting up neighborhood after neighborhood, and it's practically like you can throw it in the air and celebrate and all that shit. That's all media stuff. Because again, I never really had that. So
it is media because my kids are kind of like, yeah, 2 hours is kind of cold at night. Yeah, that's it. We don't have to do that. We got enough candy.
yeah, it's kind of cold. I'm good. My feet
Yeah.
hurt.
And then like during the pandemic, it was like they were fine with staying in. Like we got candy, popcorn. I had just had surgery, so
Yeah,
we were just
yeah,
like chilling. They were fine with it.
yeah. That's a those are unique Halloweens. But I mean, they have a normal kind of Halloween, which is kind of cool, and the
Yeah.
costumes are cool, and you kind of have that tradition going. And I'm
Hmm.
appreciative because I get to dress up now. So eventually, when I start making more money, uh, I get to do at least one costume that I've always wanted to do.
Yeah.
Maybe one day I can pull it off. So.
Yeah. If you're really like, I really, really want to do this, and you say it enough in advance, I'm pretty sure we can
It
make
would
it
be
happen.
cool. It would be cool.
Yeah.
We'll see.
So, do you want to tell the baby girls, the baby boys, what we're going to be talking about tonight?
Okay. Well,
Today.
so we decided that we were going to loop around to some haunted things, and
Mm,
this is interesting haunted places.
yes. So we have a couple of our top places that we either wanted to go to or
Mm-hmm.
we were fascinated by, and we're like, okay, we need to talk about because some people may not know about this place and they either want to visit or dive deep into the story of
I
that place.
I love haunted stories and haunted shows and all that other stuff. So there's a
Mm,
lot of places I'm familiar with.
yes.
I mean, I know full stories and things, but like, there's a lot of different places that are uniquely, um, like, just really cool to me, you know.
Hmm.
So I hope we hit some good stuff
Okay, well, I'll start my first one.
here.
Some people may know some of these that we talk about, some may not.
Sure. Hmm.
Myrtle's Plantation.
I have heard of this one before. It's ringing a bell.
Okay, so with Myrtle's Plantation, this is in Louisiana, in the
Okay.
bayou.
In the bayou.
So this was a plantation that was bought in 1857,
Hmm.
about like 6 or 7 years before slavery was abolished. So
Okay. Okay.
this is Mr. and Mrs. Woodruff that were
Woodruff. Okay.
Woodruff that were newlyweds. They had two daughters, and they bought this plantation.
Mm.
They owned a lot of slaves. Clark Woodruff was a prestigious judge, from what people say,
Interesting.
but a very cruel and abusive plantation owner.
Okay, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
So there was a young slave girl named Chloe,
Mm.
and she was
Mm.
someone who would get a lot of the cruelty to her. So
Mm.
what she would do, and this is something I would do as well, she would listen in on their conversations and learn how to adjust her behavior.
That sounds like your type of. Yeah, I was gonna
I'm
say
not trying to
your
get
type of
whooped.
behavior. That's exactly what I was.
I'm not trying to get whooped, okay? And to always get to be the front line of someone's abuse, it's like, okay, what do I need to do so I can avoid this?
So eavesdropping on her for her own like
Safety.
benefit in that way
Yeah.
and safety. Yeah, yeah, I get you.
That would be something I would do. I'd be like, hold on, what does he want? He doesn't want me to walk in like this. Okay, this is a bad time for him to get information. I would just try to
Survival.
tiptoe,
That
yeah,
makes sense.
survival of the fittest.
Yeah.
So Chloe would eavesdrop on their conversations, and one day she got caught.
Ooh, that's not good.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So Clark ended up cutting off her ears. So she was gonna have to walk
Fuck,
around with
dude.
that shame and dismemberment for the rest of her life.
Yeah.
But the family decided they wanted to hide that because I think, as slaves, they're property, so we don't want damaged goods when people come over. Never know when you need to,
Damaged goods is crazy.
right? Never know when you need to exchange property.
It's so bleak. Yeah.
Yeah. So they hid her ears with a green turban.
Mm.
Chloe was then plotting her revenge. She was like, okay, you didn't cut off my ear. I can barely hear. What the fuck y'all talking?
Revenge. Yikes, dog.
So on one of their daughter's ninth birthday, Chloe makes a birthday cake.
Mm.
And she is putting, what is it, oleander?
Oleander?
Yeah, oleander leaves. This is a
Ah.
poisonous leaf. They put
Yo.
she put in the birthday cake. Now it did end up killing the mother and the two daughters. Now some say that she did not intend to kill them, but just make them very sick.
What do you think?
If you're upon revenge, you got to know that there's
A
some
chance,
bad could
right?
happen, right?
Like a possibility
Are
of
you
it.
willing to take that risk?
Yeah,
Because
right.
a part of you can be like, well, but if it's Clark who is the one giving all the cruelty, you would want to kill him
I
too,
kill him first. Yeah,
right?
yeah,
But some say that she was just trying to get them really sick because she can nurse them back to health. And
yeah.
around the community, local healers are one of the most respected people, whether you're black or not.
She was a caretaker anyway, right?
Right. Young
Okay, so
girl,
that
but
makes
she was a
that
caretaker.
that makes sense that it
Right.
was more like a ruse. I'm gonna make them sick. They'll need me.
Yeah.
Oh.
But it ended up killing the mother and the two daughters.
Mm.
Once the word got around, I think the other slaves on the plantation were like, listen, we're not trying to get fucked up
Mm-hmm.
by Mr. Clark. So they end up taking matters into their own hand, and they end up hanging her by her neck on the front porch.
Mm.
And they took her body, put some rocks on it, and threw her in the Mississippi River.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
That's fucking brutal. Jesus Christ, that's grim.
Yeah, so from there on, moving forward, there's when these coincidences or things start to happen in the house. You have now four people dead. You have Chloe, the slave, and then the three family members, the two daughters and the wife.
Mm-hmm.
The property ends up getting sold to a couple. It's a wealthy man of five children. I think he's a widow, and he ends up at this time getting tuberculosis, and him and most of his kids end up dying.
Mm.
Now, is that a coincidence, or that's just part of the times, right? Because tuberculosis was a big thing,
Yeah.
early 1900s,
Mm.
and people were not being able to get treated.
I don't know, curses. Some
Yeah,
people
could
believe in
have been
curses.
tuberculosis, the actual, or could have been the house.
Some people do believe in
Yeah.
curses.
Now, once that wealthy man died, the daughter, one of the older daughters, she was still alive. She became the owner of the house. Her and her husband moved in.
Mm-hmm.
Unexpectedly, the husband gets shot on the front porch.
Yo.
He gets shot. He stampers inside the house, up the stairs, and dies in his wife's arms. Now, to this day, if people go visit that house, they say they hear strong
Yeah.
stampering
Yeah.
and stomping on the stairs.
Okay, see, I remember this is bringing back memories of like something I've watched back far in the day
Yeah.
of hearing that incident in particular of the stomping up the staircases.
So maybe he's still a spirit as well in
Yeah,
the house.
I think I believe in that type of energy being trapped in those types of places. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of the movie The Long Hot Summer? I think it came out in 19. No, this you're a little older spirit. This came out I think 1971. I think.
A little older spirited.
You're a little older
I've heard
spirit.
of it, yes, but I have not seen it. Fuck off.
Well, they did use the house to film that movie,
Oh,
and
that's dope.
the cast and crew did say that they reported that furniture was moving on its own.
So they had experiences then.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Okay.
Would you have stayed to get your coin, or would you have
I'm
left?
staying, dude. I like that type of stuff. I'm staying.
You staying
I
and
like
you
that type
seeing
of
stuff
creepy stuff.
getting
I
okay.
like the creepy. I have a limit to the creepy.
Okay, you're like okay,
Well-
I've seen it.
We'll get there.
Okay. Now, around the 70s, more paranormal activity started really shifting in the house.
Mhm.
The family called the Myers family ends up inheriting the house,
Mhm.
and the family reports seeing the ghostly figure of Chloe with that green turban
Mhm.
around the house.
Mhm.
In 1992, the owner, this is where the Myrtle Plantation actually became famous. Um, they took a picture for insurance purposes of the front house, I guess the front part of the house, and you can
The
see
veranda. Yeah.
yeah, and you can see Chloe's figure, what they say her spirit in the photo.
Okay. See, when you
Yeah.
said when you did this, I was like, oh, I have seen that picture.
Mm.
You could see straight through her. You could see like the shutters on the side of the house, basically through Chloe or whatever. That stuff is creepy,
Do you
dude.
believe in catching spirits in photos?
Yes.
Because some people are like, no, it's just the glare. No,
Yes.
it's the okay.
I absolutely do because you can't tell me a full bodied apparition is an actual glare of somebody, bro. There's absolutely no fucking way.
There's people who visit the house that say that they see the Woodruff daughters. They
Mm-hmm.
see them in the antique mirror near the dining room where they're poisoned.
Mm-hmm.
Even one researcher says that they see handprints. And as much as they re-silver or repurpose that mirror, the handprints come back like they
That's
were
interesting.
not trying to be ignored.
That's interesting.
So you get Chloe sometimes in a Myrtle Plantation house. You get the daughters sometimes, and sometimes you may even get that one husband that got killed.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a couple of spirits.
Nice, real heavy activity.
Yeah.
That place has always been on a bucket list of mine as well. And seeing as how we did the Queen Mary and Stanley Hotel, that would not be next, but it is definitely on that list of places I will eventually
I
go.
think the whole
visit.
state is cursed.
Yeah, I mean,
There's a lot of
it's a
stuff
lot of
going on.
sorrow, a lot of pain, a lot of blood on that
Yeah.
land. You know what I mean? In a lot of ways, I think America's just got a lot of that shit around anyway. I mean,
Yeah.
colonialism did a lot of that. You know what I'm saying?
You could probably find multiple places in Louisiana that you go where there are
Oh, yeah.
multiple
Yeah.
spirits.
My mom has told me of places in Texas, and that's still south. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
the
That
South
she's
is
experienced as a
really.
kid that creeped me out just from those stories alone. You
Mhm.
know, so good one.
Okay, so what do
This
you
one.
have for me?
All right. So to kind of stay, I guess, similarly in a vein where it's old.
Okay.
All right, this is olden, but we're gonna go even further back with this one. All right, and we're kind of taking it uh, across the pond.
Okay.
So we're headed to Venice, Italy. This
Venus.
is Venice, Italy. Yes, northern Venice, Italy, and this is for
Mm.
Pavalia, right? Pavalia or
I was
Paviglia.
gonna say pervigula.
All right, close, close.
Pervigula.
Good try. Solid effort. Pavalia Island. Now, this island is infamous. Like its reputation is infamous across Venice.
Mm.
So much so that uh, its own citizens, like Venice's citizens, don't even want to like discuss it.
They're like it's hush
uh,
hush.
the government has made it completely illegal to be on that island. You have to get permits from them in particular, and they have
Mm.
denied on many, many, many occasions. Only a certain select few people have been able to go onto Paviglia Island. If you
Mm.
were permitted for construction, you were in certain cases because restoration was tried on a number of attempts. Tried being the key word, never
Right.
worked out. Um, and also, they've let only a few ghost hunter teams, like paranormal hunting teams, go out there to like experiment and see what's out
Okay.
there. In a way, one of your favorites was out there. One of my favorites was out
Zach douche
there.
baggins.
Zachariah Baggins.
We want answers. Like, okay.
So with
Mm-mm.
Paviglia, we start essentially in like the 1300s.
Jesus Christ, the 1300s.
Used as a area for capital punishment, in addition to an area for quarantining the sick.
Mm.
There were plagues that were rampant around that time, right? I mean,
Right.
hygiene wasn't really a thing, but also um, with capital punishment, they would take those prisoners out into the lagoon that sits right out front of Paviglia Island, right in towards the entrance. They would tie giant stones to their bodies, and then they would drop them and let them sink to the bottom,
Oh my
and let them
gosh.
stay. They wouldn't retrieve them afterwards. They would just let them stay. And hundreds upon hundreds of prisoners have actually been executed there.
Mm.
So, with the mention of that type of energy, we move into the bubonic plague, where they were basically carting their dead. Now, the Paviglia around this time, after the 1300s into the 1400s or 1500s, excuse me, are suffering plague after plague, just plague after
Back
plague,
to back.
back to back. People are being just carted out, and bodies are laying in the street. And now, as they're being carted out, it becomes sort of a campo de mortis, is what they call it,
The Demortes.
right? Where we're in, and they have a lot of these actually, which is eerie around Venice. It's just large, flat planed areas where bodies were just mass put there, and then they paved over them.
Wow.
And Proviglia is basically essentially the same thing.
Big
They took all these
cemetery.
bodies, yeah, took all those bodies and essentially went out there, and where they couldn't bury them anymore, where they ran out of land on the island, they then began putting them into the burning fields. These are large grass fields that they would just stack the bodies high and light them on fire and let them burn throughout the night. And that smell would carry on throughout Venice.
Yeah, don't let it be a windy day.
Yeah, terrible, terrible smells. Now that's 1500s into the 16s and 17s, where bubonic plague and things took over 55,000 people dying and being held up there. In the same type of same area simultaneously in the timeline, you have it being used as a mental hospital. So
Hmm.
it's also an asylum, and doctors are doing experiments with lobotomies. And another doctor who was astute, like this dude was like a big time doctor around that time, just went mad one day.
Could it be the
Most
spirits?
people say that spirits of people who have died past, prisoners, and all those things, you know, strange rumors of possessions and
Mm.
things of and violence galore throughout Pavigula's history, wherein that doctor murdered a multiple of his patients and then climbed to the top of the bell tower in the chapel area of Poviglia and then jumped to his death. So if your citizens won't don't want to talk about it, and the government says, "Hey, don't go there,"
Right.
we don't do it. We totally believe in it. It's a cursed place. Why would you spend time there? Now, I love this place in particular because it's from an. I learned about it from an episode of one of my of Ghost Adventures. It's one of my favorite episodes on that
Hmm.
series, and it's a part in it where Zach gets possessed. Uh,
Bullshit.
slapping up against the wall with his hand, telling it to stop. And shit's so good, so good. I think the history behind it gives it credence. I think, or at least the hauntings credence, or at least the lore behind it some. And it's incredibly creepy to understand that there's so much pain, so much sorrow on that land
Mm-hmm.
that it stayed. It's almost like a rift in time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think I'll end off with Pavelia with this. The citizens don't go there because of the saying. They say that the ghosts are so bold that they walk in broad daylight.
No, thank you. No ham, no ma'am. I don't want to go.
I like
Daytime,
that.
nighttime. Mm-mm.
I think that's really cool, really creepy, and I'll end on that.
It gives me a little bit House of Haunted Hill vibes. Remember with the doctor in that mental institution.
Yeah.
It also gives me the vibes of that island. I forgot the island. During the 80s and 90s where they got all the bodies for the AIDS patients. They had
Ah,
nowhere
yeah, yeah,
else.
yeah, yeah. I know
You
what you're
know,
talking about.
so it
Yeah.
kind of. I wonder if even that place could be haunted. If anybody
You know
knows
what?
anything.
Probably,
Yeah.
probably. I mean, the restoration work for the construction, they said they had to stop because people kept getting sick and dizzy and injuries, and then it was like the building didn't want to be repaired because it would continuously fall in on itself.
Oh
That
God.
that island's alive and it's creepy.
Do you think anybody would be bold enough? Because different countries really, they don't mess with stuff that are centuries upon centuries, like old and
Hmm.
hauntings. You think anybody would be bold enough to say, no, we're going to build on there and we're going to bring people back?
Yeah, I think there are people who
Wow.
don't believe in that type of stuff. Money talks, so I think they would let it run. But also,
Mm.
depending on how you really do truly feel, maybe not.
Oh, Lord. Okay, so my next one is Burkittsville, Maryland. So
Okay.
the Blair Witch Project
Oh,
or Blair Witch.
okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So I don't know if people have seen that movie, but when I watched
But
it back in end of elementary, middle school, it freaked me out because I thought it was real.
that movie is great. Found footage, first of its kind, and it
Yeah.
it was a staple. I love that fucking movie.
You know what? I think I had to be in my early 20s when I found out it wasn't. I said, "What?
Yeah.
Shut your goddamn
Yeah,
mouth."
right, right. It was marketed so well, and it instilled that small little irrational fear. I got over it as I got older, but that irrational fear of like
Nope.
somebody standing in the corner.
When I tell you about the story behind the Blair Witch
Yeah.
or the Witch in the Woods, they took from this story and they added to the movie, and I was just like, that is the chef's kiss.
Yeah.
Like y'all really paid a little, nothing. I hate to say pay homage, but they did to
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
story. The real story is actually as gruesome to me as the Blair Witch.
The movie. Yeah.
But a part of me, I didn't have fear because I was like, I'm not gonna be somebody in the woods looking for.
I would never be in that
I would
situation.
never be in that situation. Are you crazy? Okay, so this is about a man named Rustin Pear.
Mm,
So this is back in 1941.
okay.
He actually kidnapped 8 children and murdered and disemboweled 7 of them.
Holy fuck,
Yeah.
dude. Oh god.
Um, there were strange ritual symbols on the kids' face and bodies once they were found.
Yo.
Yeah, and he would tell the police that the voice of the witch that lives near his house in the woods told him to do it. Now, do we believe that there
Yo.
was a voice, or is he
A
have some kind of
psychopath.
mental issue and multiple personalities? Who knows?
Uh. Okay.
So he would take these kids, and this was over a span of a couple months.
Mm-hmm.
He would lure them by promising them candy,
Mm.
and he would take them to his home. He would bring them down to his basement in pairs. So he would
Oh
take them.
no.
One would have to stand in the corner facing the wall. So remember that classic Blair Witch part at the end
Oh
where
god, that's
that
terrible,
man was
bro.
standing in the
That
corner.
just gave me a little bit of chills because like it just brought back watching that scene again. That's
Yeah,
good.
that was
That's
one of
good.
the scariest parts to me.
That's good.
Yeah, so he would make them face the wall, and
Hmm.
the other one he would take hours and sometimes days to cut them up slowly. You can hear
Torture them.
the girls and the boys screaming, and the kid had to wait their turn sitting in that wall,
The
sitting and looking at
anguish,
that
the
wall.
mental anguish. Oh
I
dear
don't even know
God.
as a 10, 11-year old, 8, 9, who I don't know how old
That
these
is
kids were,
awful,
but
dude.
that is one of the most scariest things. I don't know.
Ooh.
But there was one boy named Kyle Brody who was actually one of the souls. He was the sole survivor.
Yeah, you said he killed what, 7? You said.
7. So
Oh
he
God.
kidnapped 8. And Kyle Brody actually had to stand and face the wall, and he had to hear like his friend. It was a little girl
Yeah.
screaming, and he's
Awful.
telling him. He whispers to him, "Don't worry, I'm gonna get another one for you.
Oof.
Like I'm
Ugh.
gonna bring you a mate."
Yeah.
Um, One day he still has Kyle.
Uh huh.
One day he wakes up from a dream,
Uh huh.
and he knows that voice. It's a voice calling out to him, and it's the witch. And she's telling him, "Okay, you're finally finished. I will not mess with you. I will leave you alone, on one condition:
Uh-huh.
if you go to the town and confess that you killed the kids."
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So
Oh, dude, this is gross.
Rustin goes and releases Kyle,
Mhm.
and goes down to the town, actually goes down to the police in the town and says, "Hey, I'm finally finished."
Mm.
The police
The
take 4
audacity.
hours to hike to his house because he's in the middle of
That
nowhere.
takes a lot of balls, dude.
Yeah, he's in the middle of nowhere. And people say that he was, people who know him say that he was a kind soul. So this is kind of
Like
out of his
outside of his
character.
character, yeah.
Yeah, but the police hike 4 hours. They find the 7 bodies in his cellar with those rituals and symbols all over
the,
the kids'
the so
bodies.
they found like the symbols written in them. They found
Mm-hmm.
like altars and shit. And
Yeah,
oh,
it's
dude,
very ritualistic.
ew, gross.
So of course he was sentenced to death.
Okay, good. Get the
Back
trash off the
then
street.
it took like two. It probably took a week. They were like, okay, yeah, it's small town. They're like, yeah, we don't need that much
Yeah,
time.
string him up.
Yeah. That day that he was sentenced to death, townsfolk and the parents of those deceased went to his house in the woods
Yeah.
and burnt down his house.
Rightfully so.
Yeah.
Rightfully so.
While he's waiting to be sentenced to death, not sentenced, but waiting for
Executed.
death, yeah,
Uh.
he would find wooden stick figures in his cell. So that's where the
Uh.
Blair Witch kind of symbols in the
Oh,
woods
I
came
like the
from.
ties. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So not necessarily by his house was there symbols, but
Right.
in the cell there were symbols.
Yeah, but you can use those symbols in the woods now, and now you have a great movie,
Yeah, they
right?
kept appearing in his cell. So I don't know if there were people messing with him, or if was that the
Or he
witch.
was
Yeah,
really fucked up.
yeah.
Like.
Now in a documentary about this serial killer,
Mm-hmm.
I guess Rustin Pear confesses to a priest before he is sentenced that he never killed anyone. So I don't know if his right mind. He said, "I never killed anyone." Does he convey this to the judge? No,
Is
he
he?
does not.
Is he? Is he? Is he getting at that he was possessed?
I think so. He says that the lady in the woods
So
told him to do it.
he is truly telling that priest, like, dude, on holy ground, like, I didn't kill him.
He's saying I
It
didn't kill
was
him.
me, but it wasn't me. You know what I
He just
mean?
says it wasn't me.
Uh,
But
I
he
get you,
just,
but what he
yeah.
means by it, that's so scary, dude.
Yeah, he decides to not say this to the judge. He just takes the
Right.
sentence as is, and in November of 1941, he is hung.
How big of a fear is that? Oh dear God.
Yeah. And what's so crazy about back in the day? You would get your sentence really fast. Yeah, he was hung probably within a couple weeks.
You can't fight that type of stuff. You know what I mean? Because like putting it in that perspective for this guy, like in all honesty, like the witch possessed me. Do you believe me? No. Can I fight you or prove it?
I feel
Not at
like the
all.
witch just came in here.
Right? So it's so scary to just think like that dude's life was fucked by some ghoul in the fucking woods, dude.
Yeah. Now, I even dug a little deeper into the soul survivor Kyle Brody,
Mm.
and after everything that happened, his life just went downhill. He was arrested
Survivor's
multiple
guilt, bro.
times.
Survivor's guilt.
He was in and out of mental institutions,
Mm-hmm.
and he in 1971 committed suicide
That
by
dude.
like a wooden spoon. Yeah,
Jesus fucking Christ, that's gnarly.
yeah. So
A wooden spoon?
I would like to think that when something like that happens, hopefully you can get through it. But it's in the 40s, 50s. No one's getting you therapy, help, anything like that.
Like I just said, like you're in that predicament right now, bro. With even the dude who got sentenced to death and got hung. Like, how am I explain this? why did I survive? You know what I mean? He's
Yeah.
got that big
Why
giant
you?
that like yeah, why me?
Hmm.
And I had to hear all that. Like I had to deal with all that I saw or what I didn't even see that you left it to my imagination. That's
He
fucked.
did say he turned around a couple times, so he said that he cut her all the way open and pulled everything out after a couple days.
That's
Yeah,
crazy.
so some people were really just tortured for days on end.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's disgusting.
yeah.
That one's
So
horrible and I loved it.
that's the backstory of the Blair Witch. But
Yeah.
both to me were scary. I love that they brung some little tidbits from the actual
Yeah.
story
Yeah.
into the movie.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
That was a good one. Okay.
Okay, what you got for
My
me?
final one for you.
What you got?
Uh I think this one might be a little creepy.
Okay.
We're gonna head over to Gary, Indiana for this one.
Ain't nothing in Gary, Indiana, but steel mills and Michael Jackson memories.
And demons,
Demons.
apparently.
You know
And
when I think
demons.
about Gary, Indiana, I think about just an abandoned neighborhood.
And you would be pretty much correct in the idea of where this place kind of used to lie. It
Okay.
used to reside in this area. It now no longer resides there, and that's an act of God, thank God. But at what cost? Now, the place I'm talking about is known in Gary, Indiana, as the Demon House.
Mm,
Its history spans from about to 2011
okay.
to about 2019. So
So it started. Mm,
relatively recently.
what do you think would made it come all of a sudden?
Now, I'll say this. There were a number of police investigations at this house, and the reason why is because of just tons and tons of disturbances reported by two families that used to stay there.
Mm,
Now, I'll say two because there was a first family that stayed there, but most of the members in that family died mysteriously, and the father figure of that family went missing. So
maybe on some Amityville horror shit.
maybe that's what it seemed like to me. Now, when it comes to this demon house, um, the police did investigations and did call out some wellness checks and walkthroughs. Now, at a point in time, this place was abandoned. Like
Okay.
squatters were in it to a degree, and they were be forcibly kicking these guys out. And during one of these investigations, a police captain actually noticed that the entire floor of the basement of this house was paved, except for
Mm,
one singular spot underneath the staircase. Now, that seemed off to him because why would you do that? You would usually finish your
the whole
entire
thing.
floor,
Yeah.
right? And so he decided to give it a closer look. And what he did see on first look was a fingernail. It was a pink fingernail.
Mm,
And then he decided to go get clearance and stuff to go dig and see what they could find. After digging for about 3 to 4 feet, his partner and him found panties, children's socks,
mm.
hair, a silver platter, uh, and candles, all in this dirt pile
Sounds like a
underneath the
ritual.
staircase. And he thought it was ritualistic too. They removed the stuff, they removed everybody from the house, and not a month later, that same police captain was shot.
Mm.
He survived it, but shortly after that, he was coming out of a restaurant with dinner from his family and felt as if his ankles were grabbed and he was pulled from the ground, basically. Like he did like a the Looney Tunes, like whoop,
That's crazy.
and
So
landed on his head.
people going in there and this stuff is happening.
Stuff happens to people that go in there. Now,
Mm.
he landed on his head and ended up in a coma.
Oh God.
He survived that too after awaking for about a day or two, I think it was. But after that, no longer checking in on the house. Now, I say that to answer your question, but to go back to the family history of things, two black families ended up staying there. Uh, Family number one, the mother's name is Kanisha, from what I can remember and recall.
Mm.
Um, and her and her family, her kids, never wanted to go in the basement. They never wanted to go anywhere really by that part of the house. And that's the front portion of the house. So even when they're walking
Oh.
past the front or going towards the front, it's like a rush to get out. They always felt some type of malevolent energy
Mm-mm.
there. Now, with them, they experienced all types of things from furniture moving, random sounds and growls. bumps coming from the basement, and that forced them to move.
Okay.
But the Ammons family is the family that was most affected by this.
Okay.
Affected to the point where they've got like movie deal affected.
When you have that happen, you're just like, I'm assuming with this family, it's like, I don't have the money to move.
No, they
And you know
didn't.
how Gary, Indiana is like very poor.
Exactly. And that led to why a lot of these problems and experiences happened in the house. Now, with the Ammons family, they dealt with bouts of the same when I mentioned growling, mentioned bumps, and things of that nature in the basement. But things got a lot more serious when the kids started being directly affected. Um, one moment wherein a one girl tried to kill herself, actually, almost in the same manner with, like you said, the wooden spoon, but this time she tried
Mm.
to stab herself. Taken to a hospital, and she was said that the man in her head told her to do it. They had instances where two of the brothers looked at each other and their voices changed, and one brother asked the other, "Are you ready, brother, to go?" And the other brother replied, "I am ready to go, brother."
Oh my God.
And brother A took brother B's head and started slamming it on the ground.
Oh my gosh.
Um, now he survived, and they took him to the hospital. And during that same hospital visit, police, CPS, and house inspectors were called, and they went in for the check-in. Now they're checking the house before they get to the hospital, correct? And as they're walking through, they start noticing different aspects of the house just seem very, very off. With cold spots in a lot of places where the
Mm-mm.
house has no air conditioner and the windows are actually sealed. So
Wow.
um, they started noticing that the blinds in certain areas in the house would have handprints on them with oil. And when they would wipe the oil away, it would reemerge.
Mm-mm.
Um, Instances of touching that oil led to numbness, sharp pains, and where in whatever part of your body touched it. One house inspector touched it, lost all feeling in her hand, and then shortly after got into a motorcycle wreck. Ended up having third-degree burns, a
Mm-mm.
broken leg, and broken ankle.
The power of Christ compels you because
Yeah, you don't
I'm
go into the
covered in the
demon house, or
blood.
you don't go on that land at all. So many instances. Two key ones involved. One involves one of your peoples, again, Mr.
I'm so
Zachariah
tired of his
Baggins,
ass showing up on
and
the scene
another
with the
one
gasoline.
involving those two children. Now, one child, as we know, is in the hospital for that injury. The other child is there because he has to explain why he did it, and he can't remember doing any of that. But as the CPS worker is actually talking, the social worker is talking to the child, his voice changes, his eyes roll back in the back of
Mm-mm.
his head,
No, no,
and
thank
he
you.
begins to crawl and walk backwards up a wall in front of them. Now, mind you, there's third parties here. This isn't just the family.
Dang, so people really saw and they can say, yes, I saw that.
They did have the police officer, the captain I mentioned. They had the home inspector. They had the CPS officer, right?
Yeah.
And the family members there. All of them can corroborate the stories. Every one of them corroborated the
That is
stories.
what. How, okay, do we call in the Vatican or what do we do?
I
We
think
got to
that's one of those times where you call the
get
Vatican.
the priest with the bullhorn. Like
Yeah,
we need to.
I think that's one of those times.
Because think about it, you know your kids don't act this way. They've never been diagnosed with having multiple personalities, schizophrenia, all that stuff. And you have a daughter talking about, I have the man in my voice told me to do it. And then that whole,
Yeah,
hey brother, you ready to go? Like that gave me goosebumps.
yeah.
Like, no, what we talking about? That's
Now,
me. What are we talking about?
after crawling up the wall and
Yep, that
basically
too.
making everybody spread like scattered like roaches,
I've been gone,
um,
mother.
the boy recovers and he doesn't remember anything. The other boy who was hospitalized recovers and doesn't remember anything.
You keeping the kids or do they gotta go to foster care?
I I don't know. I think I might just throw everything away,
Yeah,
start a
I'm
new
just
life.
cause
If it was
on a
like the
ranch.
old school, like the 1950s, you could just go move out state, start a whole new family, and never have to worry.
I love y'all, but listen, there's something in your spirit that I can't
some
do it.
some real ugly in that one.
I'm not. Listen, and when the kids tell you something is wrong, listen,
Yeah,
because this ain't no game. People are getting possessed, and the kids, the animals, are the most
sensitive.
sensitive to
They
it.
are the most sensitive. Now, I watched
Mm-mm.
the Demon House documentary not too long ago, and That was really really creepy to me.
It
They had another
is.
instance where the Kanisa mother, she came back and she started talking with Zach about living there and her experiences there and how she didn't like it. And her daughter actually started asking about the demons and if they could follow her home. And then turns out, like months later, she tried to hurt herself as well.
Oh my
So, like,
gosh.
people just get affected by walking in that land. Zach did a solo investigation, and during the investigation, he ended up getting growls, and it was primal, like almost on his microphone, primal,
Mm.
deep guttural growl. Um, and he ended up hearing movement, catching all types of just different types of phenomena. And the moment he started antagonizing,
Why do
because that's what
that?
he does. You know,
Yeah.
that's what he does. We watched it. You've asked me that
We
more.
want answers. Say hello.
He started getting real, like, antagonistic with it. He
Mm-mm.
developed pain in the back of his eyes from what he said, and he developed a ailment called uh, palapnia or polomia or something like that. But
It's cocked like a pistol.
essentially, his eyes are permanently crossed. Yeah,
See, they said stop fucking with
it's like
us.
he like did like the muscles in his eyes degenerated overnight.
That's why he got them glasses
So he
now.
wears prism glasses now because of it.
Mm.
After that, and being so deeply affected by it, he got blessed, and then he
Didn't
ordered
want
that
to.
house to get torn down. He bought it and then ordered that house to get torn down.
Absolutely. I think you need to burn the ground too. Put
Yes,
some
salt the earth,
salted
basically. Yeah,
hot magma
liquid hot magma.
to it because I don't trust it. When you got aggressive ass
Yeah,
spirits like that, that's scary. I'd rather be homeless.
anything that can follow me home is just not worth the time or the effort, bro.
Not
That's creepy as fuck.
not being able to see something is worse than
Yeah.
anything
Yeah, an
else.
enemy you can't see is
The
just,
worst.
oh yeah, that's can't detect it, can't see it. That's creepy. But yeah, that's Gary and Ian's Disney house, huh? Demon house. And thank God it's no longer fucking here. But the uh the township and the people around and everybody who knows it and Gary and Ian always say that it needed to be burned down. It
Yeah,
needed to be, and that's one house you don't go into. It's not something you
I
mess
wouldn't
with.
even walk past it. I'll go the long way.
Yeah, it's one of those.
Would
They
you ever
don't.
visit?
No,
That's one of the places you're like, no, I get it.
no. Yeah, there's like, remember me saying there was like limits. It's
Yeah,
if anything can follow me home, I'm not going.
yeah.
But if there's no risk, there's no like follow me home shit. Yeah, I don't mind getting a little electrostatic touch or a little voice every now and
Like the
again.
Queen Mary wasn't bad, or like
Yeah,
the Stanley Hotel,
not
but
at
like
all.
places where they're really aggressive and it's
I'm good, bro.
yeah, I'm good too.
Good, bro.
Mm-mm.
I'm cool.
Well, I enjoyed your
Thank you.
picks.
Thank you. You had good picks as well.
Yeah. Now, if you guys really want to dive deep, I would go on YouTube.
Yeah.
I would research. Zach Douchebaggins has,
Yo, leave Zachariah alone.
he has been to a lot of the places that we talked about, so you guys can always watch him on Ghost Adventures.
Yeah.
Do you have any last words of wisdom you want to tell
Uh,
the baby girls before we leave?
no, I think we hit some pretty good ones on this one. This one was fun
Okay.
and creepy.
You guys want to listen, turn down the lights, get the volume a little low.
Yeah, man.
Because I was a little creeped out just listening to Gregory's stories. So, you know, if you really want to be spooky, wait till nighttime to listen to us and vibe out.
Yeah.
Remember, you guys, we drop our new episodes every Friday, audio wise, on all streaming platforms, anywhere you listen to your podcast. And our YouTube video will be out on Sunday at Ideally Though Pod.
Yep.
Thank you guys so much for supporting us, listening to us, and we will talk to you next week. Bye.
Yeah.